Now let's go over to the left side. Now here are all the tool options. Now if you select this little icon right here, it'll expand so that it can fit more icons in a small amount of space. But you notice it takes more real estate. Now I prefer to have it small, mainly because I'm used to it, and it gives us more real estate when we're working on a bigger picture. You can do the same thing to the right side as well by collapsing it, but that may not be as smart as the right side. You gotta do a lot of stuff, so you really want to have it expanded. But if your size is that big where you need that kind of real estate, then go ahead. But in this case, we don't. Now, this is a selection tool, and obviously, I don't need to go too much detail with this tool. Now, this second tool, we can make a specific selection. Say we want to select this part of the image. I'm not sure if you can see that clearly. Now if we click the selection tool, we can just move it, and we can move that specific side to anywhere. Now as you notice, it made this little box right here filled with this color. And if you want to prevent that from happening, all we need to do is just put this little lock in there. So let's do that again. In fact, let's cover that. Get the selection tool again, and boom. Now you see this checkerboard pattern. Now the checkerboard pattern means that that area is transparent. Now some image formats can handle transparency within the image, and that is useful in some cases. But for now, we'll just leave that alone. Now the lasso tool is you can roughly sketch where you want to select, and then boom. Now again we have this because I went back in time, so it's still locked. But as you see here, if you want to select something, that's how you do it. Now, I won't really recommend that way of selecting. In fact, I never really used that before, except for now. Alright, let's move on. Now you see there's just subcategories within here, and there's subcategories within here too, but they're different shapes, so we don't really need to go through that. Now the polygonal, or whatever it's called, it creates straight lines. It's really useful just to capture something simple. Can't really see well here, so I can't find the other point. In fact, just forget about that. Then you got the magnetic lasso tool. Now, to do that, we need to open a different image. In this case, we're going to open up this, the logo. Now, let's zoom in here. Alright. Now, if you select, you see that as we go, it follows. Even though I have my cursor a little bit below it, you see that it is sort of magnetic, which is the name, and it sticks to the edges. This is really useful when you're working with an image and such. When you're trying to cut out a person, this really takes the time out instead of using the pen tool. But you want to be careful. If you go out too far, you're gonna see that it's gonna mess up. There's just a point where if you go too far, it's not really gonna snap onto it. So you want to be careful. And here's a quick selection tool, and pretty much what it is. Now I can't really show it to you in this area because it's not really that big, but you see you can roughly sketch it out. And this is actually a very bad example, but play around with some actual photo images and you'll understand. Now magic wand tool. This is one of my favorite tools of this. You just select, boom, boom, and it selects the outer edge. Now if you want to select more edges, you press shift and you can select as many things you want. Now you notice that it has this little padding between the actual line. Now, this is the reason. Now this is because we have soft brush. And to further show what I mean, let's zoom in here. Now you see how it sort of just goes into transparent. And what this thing is doing is it's grabbing those transparent things. So it's really useful because it really grabs those minor details. Now let's zoom out. Now you can press Ctrl D to deselect, or if you prefer, select and then deselect from here. Now let's move on. Now this is the crop area, and if you want to make your image smaller, like maybe you're saving it for a website and your image is too big, you need to make it smaller. Now the crop tool is not really the smart way to do it, but it's sort of good as a guide. But anyway, let's go on. Alright, so we just got the head right there, but you want to bring it up so we have that little thing there. Now, if you press Alt, you hold Alt and you do this, you see that both sides go on. If you hold Shift, oh, it doesn't work with this. Hold Shift. You see, it scales dynamically, corresponding to the width and the height. If you let go of Shift, you can dynamically scale it. Though I don't recommend dynamically scaling it in this case, because well, in this case it's different because we're not scaling the image. But when you scale the image, you really don't want to do this because it's gonna mess up the pixel ratio and such, and that would ruin your image. But in this case, it's fine if you're trying to select a specific thing, like let's say this, But for now, let's press Enter just to see that. You see how it just cut out that real estate right there, and it made the image smaller. Well, there is a better way, and like I showed you before, image size. Let's go view that. If you really want to change it, you can just type it in, and then boom. Although this will mess with the pixel ratio. If you don't want to do that, instead, it's pretty much like this canvas size is the same as this. But instead of using this, instead of using that, you can select the pixel. And this can also do more things. Like if you want more real estate, you want more space for maybe picture editing, then you can do that as well. So that's quite useful. Now the eyedrop. And the eyedrop is pretty much self-explanatory. You click on the color, and then boom, it's within that first box. Select the white, it's white. You select the blue, it's blue. Not much color here, so can't really show examples. Now this will show later, but not now. Let's go to the brush tool. Now, remember I talked about the soft brush tool which we use here? Yeah, this is it. Now let's use a big pixel. Let's see that soft brush. Let's use a hard brush. Get a big one too though. Now over here, master diameter, you can pick the diameter of the circle you want to use. Now you'll be careful. It can go really big. As you see, it's so big that we can't really see it. You don't really want to do that unless you're working with a really big image. This is fine. Now you see the difference of this and this. Now, depending on what image you're doing, some will be better. In this case, will be this one. For my logo at least. But you see how it'll get sort of edgy. The frames right there. You won't really have that problem when you're working with smaller. Now if you're wondering how I'm going back, I press Ctrl, Alt, and Z. Hold those three, and then it will go back. And if you forget that, it's right here. Where is it? Right here. Control Shift Z. No, wait. Alt